Start by opening your Bibles to Mark chapter 6. There is this, I was thinking the other day about how I never answer emails and how I feel about that. I'm going to wait for the chat to show up on this live stream, but it should pop up in a second. But I was thinking, because, there's this passage in Mark 6 where, Jesus is with the disciples, okay? And the disciples are all tired because they've been doing all this stuff, They're like, oh, my feet hurt, I want to go home, blah, blah, blah. And so Jesus is like, okay, whatever, take a ship, we'll go across the ocean and you can have a little rest away from all the unwashed masses. Because the unwashed masses, of course, they want to consume Jesus' product, right? Basically, they just want to hear what he has to say. So Jesus and the disciples, they get in this boat, and then they go to the other side of the sea, except for the unwashed masses have followed them, okay? But even then, Jesus is like, all right, whatever. I think it says something like, he looked at them, and they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he had compassion on them. And I always remember that because it's like that is exactly not how I feel because the fact of the matter is, I get so many emails, so many comments, and my first reaction, and this is a bad reaction to have, is not compassion or wanting to help people, but this question again. I've been getting this question for like 5 years. Why don't these people know why don't the unspoken people on the internet know better? Or like, wow, this is like such a basic argument, or something like that. That's how I've always felt about it. Okay, finally the chat is coming up. So that's one of those things I gotta get my mind right about, I suppose. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Honestly, it's not so much about, I guess you could say it's about being Christ-like, but it's also about not being Reddit-like. Because when you think about Reddit is the exact opposite of that. Like Reddit, if you think of the site, Reddit is just a bunch of people with 110 IQs who spend all their day trying to feel superior to people who have 100 IQs. That's basically it. It's just a big circle jerk about how smart, mediocre people are. That's what it is. And so, the most important thing for you to be able to do is look at people who are your inferiors. And there are people who are your inferiors. And I'm not saying that everyone who watches people who ask me questions are my inferiors. That's not what I mean. But, in any, as Confucius said, in any relationship, even, it might differ from time to time, but there's always going to be someone who knows more and always going to be someone who knows less. You're always going to have people who are better and less than you. And the important thing is like being gracious with them, So that's what I'm going to try and do. Anyway, we actually already have Super Chat because I was like a million hours late. I think I originally said I was going to be here at 7:15. Like those times don't count though. The 15 after that doesn't really count. So I think there are a couple Super Chats I'm going to read. You can go to the donation link above my head. Now, Super Chats, the thing about Super Chats, they work. But donating in another way, I'll read other donations as well. And I prefer non-Super Chat donations. I'm not going to say don't do Super Chats, but you have to remember that like YouTube gets a cut of Super Chats that's like obscene. I forget how much it is. It might be like 20-30% or something like that. So anyway, we'll see what people are saying. Anyway. 80 IQ gang, rise up. That's right. There is hidden... there's some things that dumb people will never get involved in, and that is for the good of that's for their own good. Okie dokie, Super Chats. Let me read them. $1 for starting the stream. Thank you, Marco. This is $5 from Michael Smith. Which church do you think has a more theological legitimacy, the Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodoxy? Please explain your reasoning. Yeah, people are going to turn on the stream. I start talking about a passage in the Bible. The first questions are about Christianity, so people are going to assume this is like this is a Christian channel, but, whatever it is. So we'll answer this. So what's more legitimate, Catholics or Eastern Orthodox? So I think, you guys know that I'm not a big fan. I'm one of those... If I were a Catholic, I would basically have to be a sedevacantist because I find Vatican II irreconcilable with everything the Catholic Church has taught. And for those who don't know, like the Catholic Church, they have this idea that like, the things they teach have to be internally consistent throughout the ages. Now, I will say the biggest difference between Eastern Orthodoxy and the Catholic Church, and this isn't in terms of specific beliefs, but in terms of how they're organized, is in the Eastern Orthodox have this idea like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff we don't know about the Bible, okay? We have ideas about, who exactly gets into heaven and how this exactly works and all this kind of stuff. But you have to be agnostic about a lot of things. You have to be like, okay, we're not quite sure. Where the Catholic Church, they have the idea that, the church has to actively go and try and figure out and define doctrine. So you look at the Catholic Church, and over the years, it made a bunch of dogmatic claims about what people have to believe or do or stuff like that. So the Catholic Church is really liberal, or really it's sort of progressive in the sense that it says, okay, we have to keep going and finding truth. Where Orthodoxy is like, there's a lot of stuff that's mystery, and we're not really necessarily supposed to know, and they're legitimate opinions to have. So I think that Orthodoxy in that respect is probably a little easier to defend, because if you really go not just defending modern Catholic teaching with like the past, but also there are a bunch of things that the Catholic Church has endorsed for really weird historical reasons, like to own the Protkux or to own the Eastern Orthodoxy. So they're not always that defendable, I'll just say that. Anyway, so $2 from Socarest. Luke is alive, thank you. Marco Mayo sends in $50 dollars. I don't know what kind that is. Nice shirt, Luke, thank you. LNR is saying, becoming anarcho-capitalist with anarcho-primitivist characteristics. Yeah. Well, if you get really primitivist, I mean, all the other anarchist things, meme terms, they all just sort of evaporate. So that was, let's see. Oh, shoot. Why does this always reload the wrong side? Anyway, so Rusty Uoy, whatever it is, thanks for the server. That's really helped out my family and I for university. Also based that you used Libre donation platform. Yeah, I mean, right now I have Libre donation. There are free ways for you to donate to me. I mean, obviously I have cryptocurrency, and Zelle is probably, it's just the bank transfer, but I do still have, I hope eventually to get, I mean, I still use PayPal, and I actually probably most of my donations come from that, but I'm always antsy about those companies and stuff like that. What am I streaming on? I'm streaming on OBS. I've always streamed on OBS. A lot of people think that I use FFmpeg, okay, to stream, because that would be like, I record all my videos with FFmpeg, which for those guys who don't know, that's just like a command line program you run, and it records everything, okay? But I've never used that for a live stream because, one, I got to sort of figure out exactly what command to run, what's best. And OBS has a lot of, I mean, obviously, like the setup here where I have like the stuff, the chat and all that kind of stuff, that would be like impossible to do with FFmpeg. Or of course it's doable, but it'd be really hard, So, let's see. All right, so there are a couple things I want to. Oh yeah. On that point, of Redditors. Okay, that's what I constantly have to. I know I always talk about Redditors, and that's secretly because there's a part of me. I never used Reddit, but there's a part of me that has that sort of pretentious tinge, where that's often my first when I was a kid. Okay, and this is how a lot of Redditors were. Okay. They grew up in an environment where they thought they were smarter than everyone else. And that's how I was when I was a kid. There was a bunch of dumb kids in my school. Or maybe I was just smart or something like that. But, you always get that, you identify with smart people stuff. And I think it's really important to realize, like, especially, even if anything, like this is actually a recurring theme of my channel, in all my Boomer Rants and Woods videos. Your logical faculties are the things that are most likely to lead you into like terrible results. You know what I mean? Like your plan, because ultimately being rational, okay, being quote unquote rational in the Reddit sense, and I've done podcasts on this, is the idea that that's a good thing is predicated on the fact that, the ideas of my brain accurately replicate the things that are going on in reality, which is never the case. It might be sort of the case in some cases. That's why we can figure things out in the world. Sort of, but fundamentally the idea that like you can rely on your own understanding is just a dumb Reddit meme, The smart but never applied themselves gang. Yeah, that's cringe. if you're a member of that gang, just drop out. Big cringe. Oh yeah, so I am in a hotel room, in case you can't tell. I'm going on a little trip, seeing some people, doing some things. And I hate driving. I only drive a couple hours a day. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. And I just got a cheap hotel. This is, I forget how much this cost. But yeah, if you donate, that's going to go to my travel expenses. You know, I was thinking, I'm totally against the digital nomad thing. But I realized I could actually probably do a thing where if I go on a trip, I can just do a live stream every night and cover my costs. Or something like that. I don't know, it depends. People probably get burnt off. Are you still thinking of getting into Freemasonry? Do you have any interest on interesting takes on Gnosticism or Hermeticism? Have you considered making videos on these topics? It depends on what you mean by Freemasonry. Like, as in terms of a social organization, I mean, most of my family has been in Freemasonry in the past. I think my uncle is right now. But I'm talking about my great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather, but only as a social organization. So I can't attest to what they actually... I mean, I read Freemasonry stuff to know what is going on. They just sort of have hermetic views about things. Of course, if you're a Catholic, you think they're Satanists or whatever. I can't attest to that. But do you have any interesting takes on Gnosticism or Hermeticism? I don't know if I mentioned this. I have... a year or so ago, man, I guess it's been a while. I never published this. I was putting together like a Greek and English biglottic text of the Hermetic corpus to publish. I might still do that. It was like 80% done. It's always the last 20% that's the hardest to do. But I don't know who'd be interested in buying that, but it's like Greek on one page and English on the other. Just because, like, there are a bunch of English translations out there that you can buy on, like, eBay or something, but they're all poorly formatted. It's like boomers who don't know how to use LaTeX. They just put something in Word, and they have spelling errors all over the stuff because no one's read it. So I want to... I originally did this. Again, it's mostly done just to have some equivalent because, like, the Greek text is sort of necessary if you really want to understand the nuance of it. Anyway. Let's see. Urbit video win. Don't expect me to do a video on Urbit. I know people love Mencius Moldbug, but I don't... I don't know anything about Urbit. I've never had a reason to get into it. Maybe I'll look into it. I just don't really have opinions about it. People ask me about it all the time. Thoughts on Chainlink. I don't have any Chainlink right now. I sold off when it was a little higher. And I forget what I put it in, but... How do I find a GF, Luke? Just be more confident, bro. Literally. Alright, let's see. Any super chats? I think I had some other things to talk about. Now, I actually was... you guys might have seen a couple months ago, during the Corona apocalypse... Oh, see, I want to talk about Corona, but I know I can't. I'm not allowed to talk about that around here. But anyway, during the Corona apocalypse, me and my cousin, she wanted to be internet famous, so she wanted to be on a stream with me. And we got ready to do that, but like our internet was bad. I think it was just me being stupid, though. I think I was like confused. Sorry, Boomer here. I don't know how to operate a GUI interface. YouTube had changed up their interface, and I think I was just stupid and wasn't streaming right. So we might do that later. Okay, so let's see. Toothpick Van Word, sends in $5, says, Maria Gimbutas did a lot of good work on Proto-Indo-European, but at the same time injected weird feminist stuff into her work. Is the linguistics academia cucked? Well, I'll tell you, first off, most linguists nowadays are so disconnected from, like, linguistics that they don't know who Maria Gimbutas is. So I'll start about her. For those who don't know, right, Maria Gimbutas, so she, I guess she popularized, she may have come up with the Kurgan hypothesis, but she definitely popularized it. The idea that Indo-Europeans, so, you know, the people of Europe, India, Iran, all these people who speak languages that are related, come from an archaeological culture that's sort of in modern Ukraine. Now, she had her own... I've actually written a blog post about this, like, years ago, where I talked about her. But you can probably look it up on my RSS feed or maybe my older blog. You know, she, of course, had these weird, like, feminist mother goddess kind of things that were really popular back in the 70s. that she was doing, and she had like she basically had this narrative that like Indo-Europeans were like evil, like basically the world was peaceful. Okay, it was all feminist, gender egalitarian, but of course everyone worshipped like the mother goddess or whatever. And then evil Indo-Europeans came around, and they actually thought, they were led by men, and they ruined the world. That was her idea. Now, in terms of like that specifically, that's cultural view, there's no evidence for it. Like basically, they dug up statues of like fat women, so that's a mother goddess cult. That's like the evidence for it is so scant and just it's people like really pushing just questionable things. Okay, so it's mostly like her imagination. But when I wrote about this, I was like, in a blog post, I was like, this is one of the reasons why, even if you have like cringe politics, like even if you're like a cringe feminist or something in her case, every once in a while you will have an idea or like a stupid notion that will lead you into something that is actually verifiably true in some other domain. So like the general idea that Indo-Europeans come from this region that she sort of popularized, that is now generally considered to be true. Okay, there might be changes. Actually, the homeland of Indo-Europeans have sort of become closer to Eastern Europe, maybe even Poland or Germany or something like that. But it's one of those examples. Now, I'm not saying like feminists nowadays the academia is just like run by feminists, but I mean like when you have people with aberrant ideologies, that is something that's it's important because it shakes up your preconceived notions, and it motivates people to do new lines of research. Now, that's no longer the case. Like nowadays in academia, like, everyone's a feminist, and if you were not like, I'm not specifically endorsing that, or so don't think I'm like saying, feminism is good or something. That's not what I'm trying to say. But this is one of the reasons I did the Fiera Band podcast on against method. It's one of his points. Like sometimes you are stuck in a logical hole that only your personal biases can save you from. And that sounds like counterintuitive. Again, it goes against the Redditor mentality. That's one of those things. But is linguistics academia cucked? The other part of his question? Yes, for separate reasons, not because of that. It's just cucked. They're all cucked. They're all terrible. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk a little more about that later. But I mean, just in the obvious ways that all of the other ones are. That's why I'm not in, theoretically I'm still in a PhD program, but I don't do anything anymore. They don't fund me anymore. I'm not like there. I'm not doing any of that. Okay, $5 from Daniel. Oh, I might come back to that about linguistics being cucked. So hold on to your horses, but I want to answer more donations and I'll talk about other stuff. Daniel, $5 says, OpenRC, Run It, or S6, and why? I don't really care that much. I use Run It. I've never used X6. I don't have an opinion on it. OpenRC, I've just had trouble with it. It loads a little slowly. It's a little harder to configure. So I use Run It. I like it. Eleanor sends in $2, says, thoughts about Drumpf getting COVIDs? Yeah, that's a good question. Again, when you're talking about Corona or Blumpf on YouTube, you got to be careful because they ban people for literally anything nowadays. But so yeah, this is the stupid thing. Like Trump gets coronavirus, and like let's say Twitter liberals go nuts. Oh, that's what you get, Blumpf. You killed all these 6 brilliant people because you wanted them to die of coronavirus. And then it's like, dude, welcome to the real world. Guess what's going to happen? Like if Trump actually dies, that's not going to happen. But like if he ever even looks bad, you would know that it's like fake, because like we're at the point, like when I did I'm just saying it means nothing for him to have coronavirus, and everyone knows that it means nothing except for like the Twitter liberals who are pretending like coronavirus is like some cataclysmic thing. Okay. Because when I did a stream a couple months ago when this Corona stuff just happened, I gave the Nassim Taleb line on everything. Precautionary principle, got to be careful. There's reasons to think this might be a big thing, but now the months have gone by. We have seen how the statistics have played out. We've seen how fast it spreads. We've seen how few people it kills. Like, oh no, this disease that's supposed to end the world, like it basically, it's a nursing home disease. It's like people over 90, like 5% of them might die. Well, 5% of them might die of a common cold, So it's just sort of stupid that we're still pretending. I mean, well, that's another thing. It's a regional thing. Me getting around, you guys know I live in the country now, so like the Corona shutdown basically didn't happen. Like our church on paper, like they do, oh, they, you know, separate people and stuff when we do different services, but like everyone in the country just knows, yeah, this is stupid. And frankly, you know, like a lot of people I know have gotten it now, including a bunch of old people, and it's been like literally nothing. And it's more like, oh great, I got coronavirus, now I have to, like, I can't go into work for a week. So the whole thing, like, everyone knows it's just like, it's over. Like no one, we're just pretending this is a thing. It's just stupid. So, and again, I'm not against like precaution. Like I will. Well, okay. Well, I'm not against knowing what we know now. It would have been totally stupid to shut down. But of course, we didn't know that back then, so shutting down might have been a reasonable thing. But you know, now in the U.S., for those who aren't in America, there have been all these court cases, and not surprisingly, they found, like in Pennsylvania, there was one, and not surprisingly, the courts were like, oh yeah, the government telling all private businesses to just shut down and people to wear masks, yeah, not surprisingly, that's unconstitutional. Which is like, it's weird that we never heard this before. Like even these people who style themselves as libertarians, the whole time they're like, oh, we gotta wear a mask, gotta be safe, which is fine. Like if you want to be personally safe, you want to do that kind of stuff, that's fine. But the whole like forced shutdown is just like a terrible meme. Anyway, let's see if there are more. So yeah, the Trump getting COVIDs, who cares? Like it's not a thing. And if anything, it's probably gonna look good for him because he's gonna be like, I had coronavirus. Who cares? And nothing happened. But I guess he could be. He is a little chunky now. He does like drink Diet Cokes and all the fake artificial sugars and all that kind of stuff. So you never know what could happen. Maybe he's not going to be well, but it doesn't matter. Like, dude, who is it? Like every world leader has had it nowadays. Like Bolsonaro had it. The freaking who is the guy? Boris Johnson had it. Yeah. So for $8, I don't know what an $8 is. Argentinian, I don't know, from Leo. Thank you. No comment on that though. All right, let me look at the normal chat. See if there's anything. Do you think bot-produced political comments on YouTube, Paul, Facebook are prevalent? Obviously not just conservative propaganda like retarded leftists think, but both mainstream positions. That is a possibility. In fact, that's easily a possibility. But a lot of people are talking about like, oh, banning is bad. Okay, I have something to say sort of related to this, because one thing is, if you look at YouTube, you look at especially Twitter, but you look at any of these big sites and compare them to how they were 5 years ago, it's insane how they have changed. I mean, just as a reminder, like 5 years ago on Twitter, I think it was Jack Dorsey, he said, oh yeah, Twitter is like the free speech wing of the free speech party. Okay, everyone knows that isn't the case. Like, Twitter is the place for like insane liberals, and if you're not like an insane liberal, you're gonna get banned unless you're just posting normie stuff all day, every day. Okay, so people always talk about like big people getting banned and stuff like that, but that's actually not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is like how they change your opinion without notice by just subtle changes in the algorithm. And they're very open about how they do this if you look at it. Or if you look at the statistical analysis of like how YouTube videos work, like recommendations work. Because it used to be, I think there was this old like New York Times scare article about, oh no, oy vey, it's terrible. But the New York Times had done this analysis of YouTube saying basically if you look at YouTube, there's music videos. There's like 5 pillars of YouTube. It's like music videos. It's like how-to videos. It's like a couple other normie things, and then the other one was like alt-right stuff, because people, frankly, are naturally gravitated to content that they don't see on TV. Like there's a natural market for that kind of stuff, and that's how it was. If you went on YouTube like 5 years ago, it was all based in red-pilled political content. And it's not just that they banned people, but one thing that YouTube did, you can look at the statistical analyses, there are a bunch of these out there about them. What YouTube started doing is they just 10% of this video's viewers, we're going to redirect, to this like cringe leftist, YouTube channel or something like that. So you don't actually need bots to subtly manipulate people, and that's what happens. Like you get, YouTube openly says, oh, we want to de-radicalize people, which means make them believe the radical things that like CNN and all these other cringe sites want them to believe. So that's one of the things that's happening. But the weird thing is, like a lot of people are black-pilled because they're like, oh, all these people are going to get banned. Luke, you're probably eventually going to get banned, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, sure, that's a big inconvenience for anyone that happens to, you know, it's terrible. I'm not going to pretend it's a good thing for the individual. But one thing that's actually starting to happen is I have, like, keep in mind, I live in the middle of nowhere, okay? I don't live around tech-savvy people. But I have started to meet normies who are like, you know what, I'm going to delete my Facebook. I'm going to delete my Twitter. I'm going to start using, you know, I'm just going to use the internet the way it used to be, you know, which is something would have never happened 5 years ago when these sites were like honest platforms. Okay, it's starting to happen now, you know. So that's, I don't know, that's enheartening. But I think what really is happening is like just how domesticated people have become, and like I noticed this in my channel comments. Okay, this is something that I've noticed since the very beginning, because you might think, as my channel gets bigger, you know, I have a bigger audience of like based and red-pilled people, you know, but that's not the case. Like the old commenters on my channel that used to make all the based and red-pilled jokes, they just don't comment. I mean, they have their accounts have been deleted. Their posts get deleted. I go to old videos. I remember that old comment this guy left, and it's been deleted. Oh, is that weird? And that's something they do. So when you look at one thing that I noticed more and more, and part of it is just like I have more subscribers now, I have more normies watching, but I think a part of it is very malicious and is done, like I can see it happening when my comments come in. Like a lot of them are just curated by YouTube, and I don't have a say in it. Like they don't even send it to spam for me to approve. They're just like deleted. And that affects people. That affects Redditors especially, because, you know, Redditors make their opinions based on social consensus. So if they see, you know, Orange Man bad 1,000,000 times, you know, that's going to be an opinion there. I mean, it's sort of what I was talking about with, you know, polls in that other video. If you put out a poll and it says, you know, Orange Man bad -10 or something like that, you know, that's something that affects the way people think. They get, you know, gaslit into being like, okay, I guess, you know, I guess what I thought was normal is not normal anymore, you know. So that, oh, I got corona. So that's one of those things, you know. It's so easy to manipulate people. And a lot of people have done, in addition to all these, you know, sort of studies that are done on YouTube, there are a couple, you can find a bunch of clickbait articles about Reddit as well. Reddit is super easy to manipulate with just, you know, you can farm clicks for just a couple $100. You can make things go viral, and you best believe that all of, you know, the usual suspects are doing this kind of stuff all the time. It's just what happens. So, all right. Let me check donations. Actually, I'm going to check my email for donations because, again, there might be... I recommend you send in donations from a non-Super Chat thing. I will take Super Chats. Super Chats are great. But if you go to my donate link and send me money in other ways, that you usually... More of that money will make it to me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to check just a second. I think most of these are... Okay, so $2 from Titus. For some reason, I can't donate on YouTube. Super Chat. Could you please compile a list of Christian-like books for us normies? Also, best starter book for linguistics, preferably related to languages of the Bible. Thanks. So, I'm not a big... So these are actually two things that I can't give you good recommendations for. Christian-like books, I don't really read that much Christian-like books. Like, I've read... like hardcore theology books. I'm not really, like, most of the pop Christian stuff out there is probably, I don't want to say bad, it's just not for me. So I don't know if it would be for you. I guess, shoot, this is a hard thing to do. If you're just trying to understand, let's say, okay, I'll say it, let's assume you're a Protestant. Okay, so I was a Protestant when I was a kid, right? I guess, you know, I still attend a Protestant church. I would recommend you going out and searching for like the opposite viewpoint on things. That's probably what I would do. That's actually what I recommend in most things. But, you know, let's say on YouTube there are a couple like traditionalist Catholic YouTube channels. So the most extreme, of course, is Vatican Catholic, because they're like the autiste, humorless sedevacantist, VaticanCatholic.com. And I think it's instructive to look at their kind of stuff, look at the way they view things, and then compare it to what you're familiar with. But in terms of books, I can't give anything in particular out. Because I don't know, like I have, you can look at my, if you go to lukesmith.xyz/library, I have a couple books, that are like mostly theological resources, but originally the most of the reading I did was when I was a gaytheist, and I like read like critical historical analyses of the Bible, many of which are written by atheists and stuff like that. So it's sort of like, oh, what's the actual time and place of this book's writing and stuff like that, which atheists get really excited because they think there are things. Atheists have a bunch of like weird folklore. All right, let me tell you about this. So they have weird ideas about some things. So like the Da Vinci Code myth, the idea that like the Bible didn't exist until Constantine decided what's in it, and it wasn't until then that like they decided that Jesus was going to be God or something like that. It's a total meme. You actually look into the historical literature, like the research done on it, even like modern sort of critical research. You see that just isn't the case at all in the early church. It's really like what we now consider. Oh, sorry, I keep burping. I just ate. What we now consider, Orthodox normal Christianity is really the first variety you see at early levels, and later you get different ideas. But anyway, and on languages related to the Bible. So on linguistics, I never read a book about linguistics. I'll tell you, until I went to graduate school, because when I learned, like, here's my linguistics book. I learned Latin when I was a kid, and you guys know I used you shouldn't, so I did a book that was like why you should, or did a video that was like why you should learn Latin or how to learn Latin or something like that. And I used this Collar and Daniel book to learn it. And basically the way I recommend learning linguistics is through understanding a language like Latin, or preferably a highly inflected language. Latin is ideal for an English speaker because you don't have to worry that much about the vocabulary because it's so similar to English. But it just... it's still, you learn the grammatical concepts. Like you can focus just on that, and you don't have to worry about the vocabulary, or at least you worry less, because like every word in Latin is related to some kind of word indirectly in English, more or less. So I would start there if you're interested in linguistics generally. Okay, let's see. Colin sends in $5. I don't think there's a donation on this one. Daniel sends in 1 GBP, 1 good boy point. And I will look at the super chats again. How many people do we actually have? I feel like we're moving pretty quick. Oh, we have over 1,000 viewers right now. Yeah, so I think I mentioned early in the stream I was going to do a stream with my cousin. And like it didn't work out. You guys were waiting in the waiting room, and we never made connection. Again, it was probably because my boomer skills, I didn't know how to navigate YouTube's new controls. But like she was asking me how many people are watching. I was like, there's just 100, 200 people in the waiting room. She's like, oh, I can't believe people like that watch you. That's so weird. That is one weird thing. I actually don't like it when I'll meet people and they'll know me from the internet now, because now it's like word on the town that like, oh, there's this guy who lives here and he's like a YouTuber or something. No one really knows this stuff he's talking about on his YouTube channel, because I live in Boomerland, USA. You can look it up on a map. It's there. Okay, so anyway, I was gonna check Super Cummies. Okay. All right, so 20 R dollars. I'm trying to think what an R dollar is. I don't know where that is, but anyway, most of the people sending them in have, maybe those are Brazilian or Portuguese. I don't know. What's the is it the real in Brazil? I don't know. Who cares? R dollars. 20 R dollars from Mateus. He says, I just made my first website thanks to you. Thank you for red pilling me about internet independence and helping me get closer to God by cutting off my bad habits. May God bless you, and greetings from Brazil. Obrigado. Thank you. All right. Yeah, that's good to hear. Marcio sends in, I feel like I've been pronouncing his name Marcio. Anyway. 20 R dollars from him. Plans on LARPs for the future. I love it, by the way. I'm not going to change anything big. I think I'm happy with the way it is. fixing bugs. There's some bugs on it that, you know, I gotta fix. Making things easier for normies. What I really need to do is I really need to take a normie I know in real life and teach them how to use it. Okay, you know how there's, I forget the guy's name. You know how there's that little kid, he's not a little kid, I guess he's pubescent now. But there's that kid on YouTube where his whole YouTube channel is, he takes his mom and tells her, hey, use this operating system. Okay, I forget what it, OS for first timer or something like that. This is like one of the weirdest channels. But that's what I need to do with someone in real life. I need to be like, hey, here's LARBs, use it, and we'll see what happens, and I'll calibrate it based on that. I'll try and make it normie friendly. What was I going to say? Also, LARBs. A lot of people have asked me over and over again, why don't you just make an ISO for LARBs? Or why don't you make it like some kind of installable medium so like you don't have to install the operating system first? Like you don't have to install Artix or Arch and then you just run the LARB script. Instead, you just have LARBs, you install it as one thing. The reason I haven't done that, I mean, the real reason I haven't done that is I don't actually know how to approach it. Making an ISO for a rolling release just seems a little, I don't know. I should probably just do research and try playing around with it. I just don't know what extra steps. Like the thing is, when you add, that sounds like a simple thing, but that for one person managing this whole system, that might involve a lot more than I think. And it might involve a whole lot of other problems, and it definitely will involve a lower standard. I mean, again, this is, you know, gotta be like you know, Jesus preaching to the people who, you know, who wanted to consume Jesus product. But you know, there are going to be a lot of people who are using LARBs who like don't have that much knowledge about computers. Like if they don't even know how to install Arch, I'm going to have a lot of normies using it. And I guess if I do that, I have to make sure that it's going to be, you know, legit. It's going to be, you know, good, easy to use. So I don't know, but I will say LARBs has changed less and less as time has gone on because I think it's closer to the ideal. I'm glad I moved it over to DWM. Yeah, that was a good thing. I think it's made things it's made things easier. Puzzle sends in $5. Is there a good place to consume red-pilled content for data science that isn't necessarily going to shill colleges, universities as the only career path? Data science. I can't think of something off the top of my head, to be honest. It depends on what you mean by data science. Also, like if you're talking about like doing big data, like statistical analysis of data. Ooh, off the top of my head, I don't know. Like, honestly, the only exposure I had when I was in my linguistics program, I studied anything but linguistics, of course. And they had a bunch of like data science classes, and they had this HLT program. It's like human language technology. Mostly it was just people who did computer stuff. I didn't actually take that many of those classes, but my only connection to like big data and data science, I guess, is sort of my exposure to that kind of stuff. I can't give you a good, like if you're asking for a YouTube channel, I just don't know. It's one of those things you have to approach like piece by piece. Like I think you should probably have a good knowledge of statistics first, and then sort of approach it. Like I mean, I've said this in other. You guys know I did a podcast episode on I forget what the episode was called, but it was on like the null ritual as Gerd Gigerenzer calls it. I want to say, what was the title of that not related episode? I should probably check. But it was on the fact that, like in academia, you know, statistics is so serially misused that, like, even the standard, okay, yeah, it's called The Flaws of Academic Statistics, The Null Ritual. Notrelated.xyz, that's a website, notrelated.xyz. So, you know, even the main standard for like statistical operations in a lot of fields, like in linguistics it's definitely the case, in economics it's definitely the case, is just so like just wrong. If you ask the real statistician, they would be like, no, this is nonsense, this is totally like you can listen to that podcast episode if you want to hear it, because it's worth it, or read the book that it's based on. I based it on a chapter of as I said, Gerd Gigerenzer's book, The Rationality for Mortals. Excellent book. One of the best general reads ever, Rationality for Mortals, because it's one of those books where like each individual chapter is like a new red pill. So yeah, that's a good book. Oh, excuse me. Let's see. Harris sends in $5. Finally, some coldish weather in North Florida. About damn time. Yeah, it's been pretty cold, or not cold, but it's been cool, quote unquote. I've worn, let's see, the other day I went to a football game and I wore a jacket. It was my first football game, literally the first football game I've ever gone to in my life. American football, of course. I've never been to a poverty ball game. I'm not sure who's going to go to that. But yeah, I went to my first American football game. But I did wear a jacket. It was cool enough to wear a jacket here. DC Pagan sends in $5. Hey Luke, what are your thoughts on Wayland and Sway? I'm using Sway as my main window manager. I mean, people ask me, oh yeah, move to Wayland or whatever. The thing is, Wayland's alleged benefits are so incorporeal, they're so intangible, they're so minor, and there is, I think, a build of DWM that's like DWL or something, or is that it? It's like a Wayland DWM. But you know, of course, getting patches to work with that would be a big pain. I just don't see any benefits in Wayland. If you like, I don't know, if you enjoy it, fine. I'm just, it's one of those things that like people get really, like people who use Wayland just, oh, Wayland's the best. Like X11, it's deprecated, it's junk, it's Xorg is garbage. But yeah, I'm sorry. I've tried to get into it, but it's just an annoyance. Like especially when you have to run all these different programs through, I guess, an emulator. You know what I mean? Like I forget what they call it, but it's just a pain. €1 from Remy, no comment, thank you. DC Pagan again, $5. Is Linux doomed? Should I move to OpenBSD? Well, I haven't moved away from Linux yet. I've contemplated moving to OpenBSD, and I contemplate it more and more. I mean, the corporate takeover of Linux is very real. It's something you got to get. I don't want to say worried about, but you got to keep that in mind. I mean, Linux is not getting to the point where it's unusable, and it's not like, well, I don't know. I want to say it's not like me using Linux is like increasing the coffers of the corporations that fund it, but you know, I am a little wary of that. There might be some indirect way it is. I guess I have a Linux YouTube channel, so you know, that's a little worrisome. Let's see. Colin sent in $5. I don't see a comment on that. Or wait, no, these are the same. Are these the same thing as the super chat? Do I get an email for every super chat? I forget how this works. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Colin did not send in a comment, I don't think. All right, let's see. And I think I got another one. Hold on. And $2 from Jordan. Thank you. I might be reading delayed super chats, so sorry if I'm like giving all your names away. $5 from Michael. Yeah, these might just be delayed super chats. I don't know. I'm so much of a boomer. Like I don't really know how this system works. Let me look at the donations list. Actually, they might be. All right. Anyway, let's see if I had anything else I wanted to bring up. Otherwise, I'll look at the normie chat. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, there are a couple here. Recent ones. Thoughts on National Socialism? None that I can say on YouTube. So, one of the podcast episodes I really want to do is... So, here's a based in Red Pill book everyone should check out. And you might think, since it's on, you might think because of the subject matter, it's like really, really edgy, but it's actually not. It's actually mainstream academia even. There's a book called Race in the Third Reich by Christopher Hutton, I think. I want to say he's an academic, I want to say maybe in Hong Kong or something like that. Obviously, Christopher Hutton, he's a Westerner. I assume he's an American. But Race in the Third Reich, one of the most red-pilling books you could read because, again, it's not like a cringe or fringe thing or anything like that. But he actually just goes through the academic literature about like what National Socialist Germany actually believes, like in terms of their views about race and language and culture and stuff like that. If you just read the introduction, like you can look it up on Library Genesis or whatever, read the introduction and you'll actually learn a lot. Because basically, I was going to do a podcast episode on this. I might still do it. I won't I mean, I might not syndicate it on YouTube because YouTube. I mean, the content is not objectionable at all, but of course, you know YouTube. But basically, it amounts to like everything you have been told about what the evil Nazis believe about this or that is not just like wrong. It's just like the opposite of the truth. It's like people, even in some academic circles, have been repeating, I guess, like Anglo-American propaganda about it, and like a lot of it is like the opposite of the truth. Like just every little thing. So that's a book to check out, Race in the Third Reich by Christopher Hutton. I have it in my library too. Again, if you want to see the books in my library, lukesmith.xyz/library. All right, let's see. So that was that. Hey, Luke, I'd like to learn Spanish someday, and I have no idea where to start. Any suggestions for where I should start? Also, Minecraft stream when? Ha ha ha. So $5, thanks from Mr. Butt Fatman. I guess it's supposed to be, ironically, Butt Fatman. So Spanish. So I am the worst. Someone asked me about this the other day. Where should I learn Spanish from? I'm the worst to ask about this because by the time I went to college, I knew Latin, and I knew Latin very, very well. I basically tested into a Spanish class, and like Spanish 5 or something like that, just based on my knowledge of Latin, and I just sort of learned Spanish by osmosis. So I am not the best to ask about that because I never really, I never took Spanish classes. I don't know the books that people usually use to learn Spanish. I can't vouch for any of them. Now, if you want to ask me about Latin, if you want to ask me about Chinese, I have strong opinions about those, like what things I recommend, but I can't tell you anything about Spanish. Although, if you want to just learn Latin first, that is actually the base and red pill thing to do, because then learning Spanish is the total breeze. So, let's see. Any plans to learn a programming language? Learning a based and Chad language like C or C++ can really aid your understanding of how computers work. I mean, I wouldn't say I even know C, but I use C all the time because I have to maintain all this suckless garbage. Garbage, it's not garbage, it's the best software ever. But, let's see. I mean, I just use the languages I use, mostly scripting languages, because that's what I do on my YouTube channel. You know, most of the videos, if you look at the stuff I do, is literally just shell scripting. And I guess my mindset is usually, like most languages that aren't like low level like C, it doesn't make that much sense to write in something like, I've said this before, it doesn't make that much sense to me to write in Python. Like I know Python pretty well, but it does. I just prefer shell script. Once you learn shell scripting, and it has a different mindset than most programming languages and most scripting languages, but it's just better. It's just better. But I mean, I know a little bit of C. I have no reason to learn to program, though. I mean, in terms of developing a full, I don't know. Well, I guess I have written programs, but not I'm not going to write an operating system. You know what I mean? So I don't really care that much. So let's see. Why is, okay, my chat is very delayed. Let me check my things. Okay. Thoughts on CCP? I don't know what CCP? What is that? Is that a meme that I'm missing? Gaius says, what advice can you give a guy who wants to live your lifestyle but still wants to work around people, isn't that interested in programming, who doesn't at least have a traditional trade? I mean, okay, so a lot of people think that because I live remote, in the middle of nowhere, that somehow, I don't have contact with people, or, there are no weird jobs around there. That is not the case. 1,000% not the case. In fact, I probably see more people living out here than I do anywhere else. So yeah, I work around people. I have worked in larger cities. It's not you can easily live in a rural place and still have everything that you would have in an urban environment. Okay, so don't worry about that. And it's not like you have to be like a wage worker. You don't have to be a carpenter to live out in the country. And you don't have to work. You don't necessarily have to work online. You know, there are things you can do. Like, so it's not. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's my recommendation. And I know that's a cheap thing to say. Oh yeah, just be more confident, bro. But that is the actual answer. Once you make the plunge, you just gotta motivate yourself to make the plunge. Wasu says, also, I took your Latin pill about a month ago. It is really surprisingly fun to learn. That's right. That's right. Should all use Lingua Latina per se illustrata, which is the best Latin, well, I would say it's the most entertaining and best Latin book. And it's written all in Latin to learn Latin. You know, it works. $2 from Eleanor's. Modern Fortran with OpenMP and MPI much greater than C++. Okay. I don't know the first thing about Fortran. But IDK what CCP is. He really doesn't use Paul. What is CCP? Is it Chinese Communist Party? Like, that's the only thing I could... Oh, okay, yeah, someone below him says that. Okay, that's what I'm guessing it is. Okay. Thoughts on Mental Outlaw? Why do people keep on... Mental Outlaw's fine. I mean, he seems pretty base and red-pilled. Any good book recommendations about getting started in Sanskrit? Also thoughts on Jordan Peterson and his biblical lectures and views on the psychology of Christianity. I don't consume Jordan Peterson content. He's sort of below my pay grade. I mean, like... I've always been baster and red-pilder than him, so I've never... I don't know. Maybe that sounds arrogant, but I've never found a draw to him. I know that a lot of people get a lot of stuff out of him. I just don't. So... and I'm saying this, I'm reserved because like there's some things he says that I think are sort of cringe. So I don't know specifically about the stuff he does. I know that he's not like a Christian, but he's one of these... I think he's one of these like oh yeah, like Christianity is like archetypically important and stuff like that, blah blah blah. But I don't know anything about that. But good recommendations on getting started in Sanskrit. Well, once again, I feel like I have to recommend this page a million times, but lukesmith.xyz/library, and there is a book. It is Devavani Praveshika. Let me actually make sure that it's in my library. I'm going to my website right now just to check. Devavani Praveshika is an excellent book for learning Sanskrit. Just look at it. Where is it? Is in here, isn't it? Yes. If you go to my Oriental, Indo-Iranian, East Asian, and Oceanic languages section, it is by Sutherland Goldman. That is a good book for learning Sanskrit. Excellent book. The best one I've seen. And I remember in the Library of Congress code, the first time I read that book, it was at the University of Georgia Libraries, and the code for it in the maybe this is like infamous, so I shouldn't say it, but the Library of Congress code for it is PK666. So it's easy to remember. Only code that I actually remember for any book, but easy to remember. Thoughts on neoclassical economics? Cringe. Equally cringe as Keynesian economics, of course. I mean, they're basically the same thing. Like this whole mainstream economics always convinces itself that like there's like saltwater and freshwater economics, but like you actually look at the polls of what economists believe, and they're all the same. They all believe the same thing. They're just like some of them are Republicans, some of them are Democrats, and they pretend to be different, but they really believe all the same stuff. That's why like mainstream economics is whatever. Who cares? But he's black. Mental Outlaw, yeah, he is. Mental Outlaw is a deep fake. I could see him as being a deep fake. He does sort of look like a deep fake. And I will say, of course, before he did his face reveal, where he showed himself as not just a black guy, but a black guy who wears a tank top, which of course we can all pretend we were expecting that. But I always imagined him as this like chunky, of course, white guy. 'Cause I don't know, his voice sounds chunky, like he'd be a little chunky, but no, it's just black guys have deeper voices. I think that's what it actually was. So let's see. Okay, why my my little chat window is messing up. So I'm gonna have to go back to the Streamlabs thingy to look at donations. Hurry on up. Okay. Okay, no new super chats since then. What do you think about accelerationism? Okay, this is a good topic. Well, it depends on what accelerationism you're talking about. I think there's like the Nick Land accelerationism, which is like technological accelerationism. But there's also like this accelerationism of... this is actually the most cucked view of politics there is, I have to say. And I say this as someone who in the past has... Before I had an internet presence, I'd be like, oh yeah, acceleration. Yeah, that's like the best thing you can do. But accelerationism is extremely cucked because here's what it is. It basically is, I have totally given up. I have no agency over my life or over anyone else's. I don't want to affect politics. I don't think I can do anything. You know, and I've totally convinced myself that I can't even move to the woods and live independently, okay? Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make the world worse. I'm going to vote for bad candidates. I'm going to, like, do everything to make things worse. And then if things get worse, you know, accelerationism is like the buffer overflow argument of politics. It's, oh, if I make things so bad, then things will get better. Oh, like if I endorse like child trannies on TV and stuff like that. Eventually people will get sick of it, and then the pendulum will swing the other way, and that's just not how it works. Like, it is easy to get people to believe new and terrible stuff. Like, the media does it all the time, so don't ever believe this like accelerationist garbage. It's just a cope. Accelerationism is just this thing that guys do to like to feel superior about like giving up about their life. Okay, even if you give up about politics, even if you don't see a political solution. Like, you can at least make obvious things in your life to make it better. Like, for example, moving out of the city. If this election happens and you're still in a city after it happens, after you know what's going to happen afterwards, okay, I don't know what's wrong with you. Okay, get out of the cities now. You can at least do that. So, yeah, so accelerationism is big cringe. Big cringe. That's what I think. I think my earlier question got cut off. What are your ideas and resources on learning Mandarin and Cantonese? Look up, if you want to learn Chinese, look up the John DeFrancis series. That's DEFRANCIS. DeFrancis. It's also the Yale series. So here's the deal. There are two series of the books. Sorry, get a burp. Because learning Chinese, it's really learning two things. You got to learn the character system, which has its own logic, and you got to learn the actual language, the spoken language. It has its own logic. So what the DeFrancis series does, they have the green books, and the green books, if you open them up, all of the books are really thick too. They have great exercises. They're great about everything. But all of the books, if basically the green books are like only spoken Chinese. There are no characters inside. So it's all like pinyin transliteration. And they teach you, like, it's so effective the way they do it. Like, all the exercises they include. Like, they include enough exercises and drills for if you use it yourself alone, it will still be good. And there's actually audio tapes that you can get. Now you can get for free. They used to sell them. You can get them for free, although I think you have to get them off of iTunes. I remember one time I had to go on a normie's computer to get iTunes and download these things because I think you can't get them off of iTunes, but they're still free. You can at least get them, and they have all the audio for them. So that's the green books, and they're just called. They have generic names. They're like beginning Chinese, intermediate Chinese, advanced Chinese, and then they have the red books, which are on characters. And what they do is every chapter they introduce 5 Chinese characters. And of course, with 5 characters, you might get like 50 words because like they can all be combined in different ways, right? So they keep you at this really small number of characters per lesson. and then you move up, and it's just so it's fantastic. Like they're just fantastic. Either of the series, you should do both of them. They're sort of independent of each other, but they're both like the perfect way. You know, the green book is perfect for learning spoken Chinese, and the red book is perfect for learning characters. So yes, the De Francis series, whatever they call it, the Yale series. Yale is the company that published it. So I'm gonna have to reload my little chat window here because it's sort of messing up. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so that's that. So I feel like I need to do videos on. It seems like every single live stream, people ask me what to learn, what to use to learn Chinese, what do you use to learn Latin, blah blah blah. I should just do a video on these. That would be a smart thing to do. If I were a smart person, I would have done that. Please repeat Latin book title. Want to buy $2 from Abra Bra. Okay, just go to my website, lukesmith.xyz/library, and you can also go to lukesmith.xyz/donate. But in lukesmith.xyz/library, there's a book called Lingua Latina by Hans Orberg. That is the title of it. Lingua Latina is the first in the series, and then Roma Aeterna is the second in the series. Okay, Lingua Latina, or sometimes it's Lingua Latina per se illustrata. So sometimes it's abbreviated LLPSI. LLPSI. So you need to just Let me gotta get back to live chat. Which Taleb book do you recommend to read first? The one that I first read, I guess the one I first read was Black Swan. So actually, there's a story. I mean, you guys know I like, I like Nassim Taleb's stuff. I will say he's been a little cringe recently, like the stuff he's been saying. But I like his stuff. I first read it back when I was an economics major in college. This is when I was actually in China. And I didn't have many books. Believe it or not, I actually had an e-reader or like some kind of tablet. I would never have something like that nowadays, but I had a tablet, and one of the books that I got on it was Black Swan. Of course, I downloaded it for free. I was never dumb enough to like buy a book. Well, I got an electronic book. Why would you do that? If it's electronic, it should be free. But so I got the Black Swan, and I remember as an econ major, econ majors, they always have like a chip on their shoulder. They always have this like feeling of inadequacy. That's my vision, and I probably had it less than other econ majors. Actually, maybe I had it more because like I was more aware that like economics is basically like a pseudoscience. It's basically like, well, most sciences are pseudosciences, frankly, because again, like they're all using statistics incorrectly. They're all doing like really basic stuff wrong. I always had this felt inadequacy about economics, and I remember reading The Black Swan. Because I'd heard it was like based in Red Pilled, but I just remember feeling so defensive the whole time I read it. I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna own me epic style, because he's talking about like how fake and gay economics is. I remember reading that and I was like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I remember reading Anti-Fragile when it came out, and that was the book that really hooked me in. And I was like, oh yeah, this guy does know what he's talking about. This guy is like. When I read Anti-Fragile, I was like recommending it to everyone I knew, because it was like, yeah, this is good. Skin in the Game's pretty good too. I mean, it was nothing I wasn't expecting, but yeah, Anti-Fragile was the book for me that like, oh yeah, it clicks. But you might want to go back and read his early stuff, maybe in order. His first one, I didn't read his first one till later. What was it called? Fooled by Randomness. That's a good one too. I mean, they're all good. They're all good. I have not read his Book of Proverbs though, which he did put out. Let's see. Saw in your reading list you read Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific. Any thoughts on it? Has your dislike of corporations ever made you consider Marxism? No. No, because it's a false equivalency. I mean, listen, kids. Like, there's this false equivalency between communism and what communists call capitalism. Okay, so capitalism is a fake word. Okay, it doesn't correspond to anything in real life. You know, or, well, sort of. It does correspond to something. Like historically, if you want to define capitalism, it's like the demise of aristocratic Europe, like the loss of class privilege, and now everything's mediated by money. If you want to call that capitalism, fine. But the whole idea of like capitalism being on one side and then like socialism, communism, whatever being on the other, that's like a stupid. I mean, if there's one thing I agree with Marx on, okay, it's that the insight that capitalism is just like a step onto socialism, that is the correct way to look at it. Because now obviously for him it's a good step, you know. Capitalism is an advancement from the society before it, and socialism is an advancement from that. But you know, I look at it the exact opposite way. Like once you have like diminished life to the extent where you are mediating everything through money, and nothing has value that has no money, like culture, race, language, these things don't matter because they can't be monetized, and everything is gauged in terms of like, oh, this thing we can model economically, so we need to like make sure it's optimally efficient and ignore all variables we can't model. You know what I mean? That's basically the capitalist quote unquote mindset, or at least like of classical economics, right? And once you get to that step, like socialism is just like something that, I mean, it's just like, okay, well, let's like use that for our own benefit. Let's use that for our own benefit, quote unquote. Like it's just like they're the same thing. Like capitalism and socialism, like one comes with the other, you know. Whereas I wouldn't even call myself third positionist. I know that's a meme. I'm really like pre-capitalist. That's really what I am. Okay. That's all it has to do. And of course, I'm not against currency per se, but you know, if everything is being monetized, you know, it's not a good. Well, you know, I'll actually use a Nassim Taleb note or point. You know, his thing is, you know, a sane society is a socialist society at the family level. Okay, you know, at the sort of local level, you know, it's, or you know, maybe it's like authoritarian communist in the family level, and everyone's taken care of. Okay, it's a little socialist on the sort of extended family level. You get, as you get to people who are a little further away, it's like more conservative. And then the ideal government, the ideal large-scale government, is that there shouldn't be a large-scale government. There's like, you know, that's one of those things, like the less of it is, like the only reason we would ever need a large-scale government is to, you know, resist the dangers of other large-scale governments. You know what I mean? Or human organization after a certain level is going to be degenerate by definition. So it's just something we have to view as a kind of pollution, frankly. So that's sort of, yeah, it is just, you know, capitalism and socialism, dumb terms. How do you manage your time and do Linux stuff and read? I want some help. Any advice for uni students who wants more time for reading? I don't actually read that much. I actually have already made a thumbnail for a video I'm going to do about, like, I don't really read that much. People have this idea because I have a lot of books and I have a lot of things to say about the books that I've read, like that I just read all the time. I don't. I don't know. I don't know what to do. It's more an issue of like cutting out junk books, because there are a lot of boomers out there who just read novels and read silly stuff and reads, you know, stuff that like the New York Times recommends or something like that. You just have to gain a taste for like what is a shill book and what is a book actually worth reading. You know, that's the issue. You know, that's more of the issue. Luke, is college worth it? No. I'm surprised that anyone had to ask that. Luke, libertarianism failed with Ron Paul's campaign. I'm not a libertarian. All right, I'm gonna check for donations on my PayPal end. Okay, got a couple emails. Let's see, $5 from Jan, or maybe it's Jan, you never know. What are the best ways to get into full self-sufficiency other than farming? What are some good habits that most people don't follow? Okay, always start marginally. Okay, easy, cut junk stuff out of your life. If you're eating at restaurants, stop doing it. The only times you should be... Actually, I ate at a restaurant today because I'm traveling. And that is the only time I will ever eat at a restaurant alone. Okay? If you're ever eating at a restaurant alone, unless you are literally... You have no kitchen near you, that is the only time that you should be eating at a restaurant. I always hound on restaurants because, you know... but that's one of the ways people waste money. So I would just think in terms of... so one thing, living out in the middle of nowhere, I'm just going to give you some heuristics. Okay, living out in the middle of nowhere, you know, it's harder to get to big stores. So I would try and minimize the time, let's say you live in a city, minimize the times that you go to a big store. And that means a couple of things. You have to actually think before you go what you're going to get. You have to plan things out. You want to buy in bulk. All of those kind of things are good habits for... you know, to be more self-sufficient. And of course, we're still talking about like buying stuff. You know, it's not like you're making this stuff from scratch. But you'll also start thinking about, okay, what's more durable? Okay, you guys know I said in a video a while ago, I don't shop at like Walmart or any of these places anymore. I just don't do it. Actually, I might have to go to an electronics store sometime soon. I want to get one of these things for like putting my phone on my dashboard, literally for the only purpose of recording videos. I just want to be able to drive and record. That's the only thing. But yeah, just don't use big stores. I would just start cutting things out of your life and cut things out that you know you won't be able to have self-sufficiently, and that will already prep you for when you are living more self-sufficient. Okay, $2 from Oliver. I don't see a note on that. Okay, let me check for super chats. Meanwhile, what are your thoughts about nofap? No one should be masturbating. Yeah, dude, don't masturbate. Like, don't do that. Don't watch porn either. This should be obvious stuff. I don't know. But it's funny, all the rationalizations people will come up for, like why they have to. I read a news article about why I have to watch porn, or like why I have to masturbate, or I'll get cancer and die. It's just so stupid. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not that hard. I don't know why. Like the idea that like. I don't know, people who have well-adjusted lives and are not cloistered in their room alone don't even have the temptation to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, of course, don't masturbate. All right. Do you have any advice for someone trying to quit nicotine? Just don't do it. I mean, don't not quit. That's not what I mean. Yeah, just stop doing it. I mean, it's one of those things. There's some addictions. I'm sure you're physiologically addicted to it, but it's one of those things where, in order to smoke cigarettes, for example, you have to. Oh, I want to smoke a cigarette. I have to go to the store. I have to get my money, get in my car, go to the store, buy cigarettes, and smoke them. You know, it's one of those things where like there's this huge chain of decisions you make, any one of which you could have broken. And it's the same kind of stuff with cooming to porn and all this kind of stuff, where like actually cooming to porn is probably, there's less of a chain because the internet is in front of you all the time, but still, like it's just one of those things. Like I guess when I was younger, I had this idea that like back when I had a more Protestant, a more Calvinist way of looking at free will. There's this cope you have in your brain where it's like, oh, I just can't resist it. I can't resist temptation. I have to. Oh, well, I tried hard, but I couldn't do it. Oh, well, that's just how it is. That's the way a lot of people talk about their decisions. They talk about like the things that they do as being something outside of their control. When in reality, like once you just take responsibility for it, oh, it's not that difficult, you know. There are lots of people who quit smoking cold turkey in jail because they don't have the choice. It's not like you're physically forced to do that. So yeah, you can do it. I mean, and the other thing is, of course, quitting anything cold turkey is going to be hard to. I mean, it might be hard to do. You might be able to do it. You just quit. Oh, I'm just not going to smoke a cigarette, and you never smoke a cigarette. Oh, I'm not going to coom to porn, and then you never, masturbate ever again. Maybe that can happen, but if you relapse, the important thing is not to like, oh no, I ruined myself. Now I'm back in the saddle again. That's just the stupidest mentality to have. No, you're responsible every time. You're responsible if you fail. You still are equally responsible, and you have the same chance after you fail again in something like that. So I just don't like most of the things that people make up about this kind of stuff is just copes. Okay, and I'm sure there are things, I'm trying to think of one in my life, I'm sure there's something I'm still coping about. I can't resist doing this or that. I can't think of something off the top of my head. I don't know, maybe I've become sort of good at getting rid of this kind of stuff, but yeah, just don't do any of that kind of stuff. Is it possible to be a red-pilled trans girl? This is my goal in life. No, it isn't. Cringe. Discipline equals freedom. Yeah, that's true. See, now this is the ultimate. I'm gonna make a E. Michael Jones kind of point here. Okay, this is the ultimate lie of modernity. This is the ultimate lie of liberalism. The idea that liberalism gives you freedom. Okay, the idea that if I get more decisions, if I can watch internet pornography anytime, if I can, do hard drugs, if I can smoke weed, that means I'm freer. Okay. In reality, what that means is there is another thing that can control your psychology. It's the exact opposite of this. Like, if you have the ability, if you have the liability of being tempted by these things that are designed to manipulate your psychology, like pornography or something like that, to keep you consuming and cooming, that is something that makes you a prisoner. Prisoner to sin. Literally, that's what that means. Like when you talk about being, you're no longer a slave to sin, what that means is, I actually have control over my life. But what modernity does is it dangles these little things, these shiny objects, these like sexy objects in front of you, because they want to steal your freedom. They want you to do this or that, and they want you to be addicted to those things that are supposed to be, I get choices, I get freedom. It's the exact opposite. You're more free if you resist those things, but also if they were never there. If the Supreme Court tomorrow decides that pornography is not freedom of, not protected as freedom of speech, which it's ludicrous that, no one would have ever thought this would come to this, you know what I mean? No one in the 1700s would be like, the First Amendment, that's not to guarantee political speech, that's actually to guarantee pornography. No one would have ever thought that. It's just absurd. But if the Supreme Court decided tomorrow that is the case, that would be probably one of the best things that ever happened, okay, if in this country. Probably wouldn't happen, but it would be one of the best things that happens. And it makes you, in some autistic libertarian sense, you're less free because there's this thing you can't do. But it's like, you are not freer for falling for stupid things. You're not freer for falling into psychological traps. It's so stupid. So. I also just don't like the denial of human agency that people have, that they're like, I just have to do this, I'm addicted, and of course there is physiological addiction, all the time. Like the thing is, people think that, we're talking about our brain chemically, we're talking about dopamine and stuff like that, therefore it's science, therefore it's out of my control. That's the mindset a lot of people have, but in reality it is, Yeah, whose instructions do you compute? That's the issue. And the fact of the matter is, what modernity wants you to do, what they, who the people in charge What they want you doing is passively consuming Netflix and porn and stuff. That's their goal. That's quite openly, you know, what they have for people, you know. So, and that is a place where, oh, you're given all these choices, and you're doing the one that is worst for you because it's like, oh, comfortable, and, you know, it looks good on the surface of it, you know. So, you know, you just can't fall for these tricks, you know. All right, I'm gonna check my email for donations. Got a couple emails. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, these might just be Streamlabs donations going through. Jan, $2. Thoughts about Taoism? None in particular. Hold on. Let me look at some. Taoism. I mean, I guess I've written on it. I guess it's known. Taoism. I don't know. I don't have that much to say about it. I feel like I went on a speech to someone in real life about Taoism the other day, though. Probably some autistic speech. But yeah, no. I mean, I've written about it. I'm not that interested in it. I mean, in terms of Chinese philosophy, if you wanted to pigeonhole me with one, I would probably identify with Taoism most, because it's you know, it's sort of equivalent to concepts like natural law in Western ideas. Or, well, natural, I guess it's partially natural law. It's more like emergent order. That's one of the ideas behind Taoism. You know, that there's a solvency to the universe that is beyond human direct understanding. You know, that's one. And of course, that's a political philosophy. You know, it's a kind of, I guess, kind of libertarianism. Again, I don't like using. See, the problem is I don't like using words like libertarianism or any political terms, because I know, like, there are people who are programmed about these words. They like react to them in particular ways instead of like how you mean them. So, you know, that's I remember last time I was doing a live stream in a hotel. We talked about that, like how this. Okay, let me tell you how normies look at politics. This is how every single normie you know thinks about politics. They don't sit down and rationally decide stuff. They might think that they're doing that. They don't even necessarily rely on their intuition. But if you are a well brainwashed normie, there are terms that you know that you don't like. Okay, so that there are terms that the media has programmed you to not like. Okay, trying to think what, you know, racist, something like that. I don't know, racist. You know, white supremacists, or if you're a boomer conservative, you know, socialism or something like that. You know, these terms that people don't like. Okay, so basically all of these terms, they're just like, you know, they're just like, you associate them with like bad psychological feelings. And then all of political thinking for normies is just like taking other things and analogizing them against these terms that they've been programmed against. Oh, that's socialism. We can't do it. Oh, that's racist. We can't do it. Oh, that's this. So it's a way of like taking otherwise totally sensible things or policy positions or like just obvious facts of life and lobotomizing them out of people's brains. It's a very clever way to do that, you know. That's ultimately how it works. And you know how, you know, most normies are like word association machines. They're just like, oh, here's a word I'm supposed to like. Here's a word I'm not supposed to like. Oh, let me and they're bouncing off of these words, and that's what they think of as being like rational politics. Okay, and I know because when I was a kid, that's more or less how I thought. And when you look at normies, you realize, you know, this is how they're thinking. They're really just running away from words they're programmed against, and that's it. They don't have any like. It all, the only thing that matters is, oh, am I running away from the scary word? And am I running to the word that I'm supposed to like? You know, that's all it is. All right. Let's see here. Super chats. Check them. Maybe I'll check the normal. Who will win the election, Luke? I don't know. Hasn't happened yet. Let's see. Ryan Platt, $2. Where does free will end and fake choice start? Well, it depends on what you mean by free will. You can have free will and end up putting yourself in a place you can't get out of. And that's the important thing, is where does it take you? If your free will is taking you a place that makes you more and more incapable of talking to people and incapable of functioning outside of the system and incapable of like doing basic things and taking care of yourself and taking care of other people, then your free will is leading you in a bad position. So there are two ways of rectifying that. One is you have to make different decisions, which might be hard to do, or the other one is, this is something you can't individually do, but the other ideal would be, keeping people from making bad decisions, right? So things like, if we're talking about pornography, making it hard to get pornography because it's illegal or something like that. So yeah, you make free will. Your free will can go in any direction. It's not an issue of free will, but there's a point where you get addicted to all of these vices, and your free will dissipates because you don't have any other choices. You're trapped. You can't do anything else. Okay, that's the issue. Okay, you watch so much pornography that you can't interact with humans, especially women, or you're just like stuck to your computer screen all day. You use drugs and you like spend all this money that you could be using on something else on them. You spend all this time on video games and stuff like that, and you realize, well, you don't have freedom in your life. You're making decisions. You're making decisions that rob you of every other decision you could be making. So yeah, sure, yeah, that's free will, but now you have nothing, and that's what they want. They want you to be not just complacent, they want you to be impotent. That is the goal, to make it so people, they are passively, again, literally just they're passively consuming the world outside. They're being told, they're being programmed against whatever words they're supposed to be programmed, so when they go and vote, they'll vote for the right person, okay? Aside from that, they are just being fed what they're supposed to believe, fed what they're supposed to consume, stuff like that. And you don't have freedom. Even if, obviously, no matter what, you have been making free decisions to get to the point where you are. But you might find yourself where you don't have any freedom. So that's the issue. Okay. Let's see. 7 is a cannibal. 5 Canadian dollars. He says, thanks for making videos. It's so cathartic to have a public voice of reason in this age. I wish you were I thought he said, I wish you were the best, but he says, I wish you the best. Well, really, who's the best? P.S. Would you use OpenBSD? I've thought about using OpenBSD all the time. But I've had no real impetus to switch over. I know obviously it's going to be sort of a pain to switch over. I know most of it, of course, is similar, but I'm sure that there are programs I use that don't run exactly the same, and there are scripts I have to convert over because, the core utils are different. So it comes with cost, and it doesn't come with much benefit. I guess the only actual personal benefit would be, I can do a video on it. I guess that would be cool. Maybe that's what I should do, because there really is... I'm trying to think. The only other guy on YouTube I know who does BSD stuff is, what's his name? I forgot his real name. I want to say it's like Dustin. I forget the like Australian guy. His channel's iBSD. I forget his name. Shoot. Maybe he does. Maybe his name isn't public. Maybe I'm just making it up. Maybe he just looks like that. He just looks like a guy with a D in his first name. But yeah, I could. Yeah, I could just market OpenBSD as the base and red-pilled operating system, put out a LARB's ISO for that. Yeah, just not have to worry about Linux. I could just feel superior to all the other Linux channels. Yeah, that's an option. But yeah, I just never really felt... I've never really had a reason to switch, so... But, I have looked at other BSDs, and if I did switch to BSD, it would be OpenBSD. Sometimes people ask, use FreeBSD or something like that. But yeah, it would be OpenBSD if I did move over, because I just feel like it's, baseder. Andrew Ryanson's in 5 pounds. Good boy points. What are your views on the Cathedral and Curtis Yarvin's breakdown of power structures? I think it's generally pretty accurate. I don't think that... and it's one of those things, I think a lot of people... I remember years and years ago there was like some kind of poll of the people in like the Dark Enlightenment, not like the people writing, but the people consuming the content, myself included. And I remember like it asked like, what's your education level? And pretty much everyone had gone to graduate school in the selection of people who described themselves as reactionary or new Dark Enlightenment, whatever. So, and I think there's something to that because, you know, it wasn't until I was in graduate school that I realized how systematic it is. Even if it's like there are some departments where like when I was at Arizona, it was like walking into a cult. Like when I went to you wouldn't think that the University of Arizona linguistics department is like a weird cult, but it basically was when I went there. And this was at a time where everyone was on edge because it was back when Trump was, running in 2015 and 2016. And you just sort of see how organized and implicit it is. You know, the thing is, there are actually a lot of academics who still think of themselves as being free speech people. It's just like they don't really see where they I don't know, they don't get the world outside of where they are, and I think they just sort of take like extreme leftist politics as just being like indisputably what we have to enforce. Like they'll pretend, oh, everyone has their right to their opinions, but we're going to have to do this. But in terms of the power structure of the cathedral, like not just universities, but like NGOs and stuff like that, it should be pretty obvious that that's the way that it is. I think, you know, even retarded nihilistic boomers who think they're intelligent for saying something like that, well, neither political party works. Like I think even implicitly those kind of people realize that, you know, governance in any government that calls itself a democracy is fundamentally by the permanent bureaucracy. That's the people who run it. It's the NGOs. It's the people who have permanent employment. And they can be inconvenienced. Let's say Donald Trump gets elected. They can be very inconvenienced by him in some domains. But the system continues as planned. In fact, I mean, if you look at how things have changed since Trump was elected, and this is why a bunch of retarded boomers, or, well, actually, no, not retarded boomers, but 5 or 6 people on the internet are like, I'm not voting for Trump this time because, you know, he's not based and red-pilled enough because bad stuff has happened. But, you know, when you look at the kind of stuff that's happened in the past couple of years, the cathedral has like drastically accelerated how they regulate speech. I mean, I mentioned stuff like Twitter and YouTube and stuff, and how they've changed over the past couple of years. How now like every single thing is monitored and shifted in the direction they want and stuff like that. And back before Trump was elected, they never really felt like they had to do that. Because they were like, it'll be a free platform and we'll win because we're right? Duh. Except for they realized that's not the case. So now you have all these, you know, the system is filtered from these NGOs funded by all the usual suspects and, these universities who are governed by extreme social consensus. You know, they have all sort of, I guess, put their paws all over Silicon Valley, and of course most of the people in Silicon Valley are very willing to agree with them, and you know it's just worrisome, once even me being in graduate school sort of seeing I don't know how things work, how money moves through the system and stuff like that. You really it's a real thing, like and that's worrisome because electing the right people isn't necessarily going to fix the issue. The real solution might come in people not going to college anymore, people just totally tuning out of the media, people just getting out of YouTube and all these other major sites. And that's why I endorse all of these things. I always tell people, don't go to college. That's one of the, not just bad for you, it's bad for everyone else. Don't just drop off from social media. I have made a lot of strides to make my videos independent of YouTube and everything else, even though YouTube is still the platform people come to. So, that's just a fact of life now. But in every domain, just minimize the hold they have over you. That's all I can say. But there are some particular things I can disagree with Moldbug on. or Curtis Yarvin, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, of course, his general analysis is it's right. I mean, it's hard to dispute it. Let's see. Let's see. Jan sends in $2. Define a normie from your point of view, please. Normie. Depends on the domain. Let's say let's say in tech. You know them when you see them, and everyone has a little bit of normie in them. You know, no one is totally normie, right? Or maybe there are total normies. I don't know, but you know what a normie is. Let's see. Let me check the super chat list, donations list. Wonder how long I've been going. I'm not too tired, but let's see. We still got 1,000 viewers. I don't know if it's gone up or yeah. It looks like it's been at 1,000 for a while. Okay, I got a couple more emails. Let me look at those. I think these are just like no comments on. Okay, so here's PSA. A lot of people are sending like I've seen this multiple times. A lot of people are sending like little $2 donations or something, but multiple of them. If you're gonna send multiple donations, just send them as one donation, because what happens if you send $2 or something like that, like because it's such a low amount, like 25% of it gets cut off. Okay, whereas if you send it all as one lump sum, like a smaller percentage of that, you know, I don't know. Well, anyway, the preferable way to donate is Zelle or any of that other kind of stuff. Actually, I'm gonna check Zelle for a second. Oh yeah, so if you Americans don't know, you can just go to lukesmith.xyz/donate, and I think I have a little write-up on it. But most banks in America allow you to just transfer money directly to another account by email. And you can just use that to send a donation to. That's actually my preferred way, because they don't take money off of you. But it doesn't look like anyone has sent any in. Or it might be delayed a little bit. Okay, anyway. Super chats. Izzy sends in 25 Canadian dollars. Legend. Thank you, Izzy. Okay. Pseudovirus, are you an anarcho-primitivist? I'm not a word thinker. I don't identify with, it's like extremely degenerate to identify with political labels. Luke, what are your thoughts on super chats? Well, I pretty much say them. You can do them, but YouTube's taking a cut. That's all I say. I'm getting most of it, but you know, YouTube is taking a cut. And if you want to donate, lukesmith.xyz/donate. There are other ways of doing it there. Let's see. People asking the same questions over and over again. Okay. You should use Alipay to get all the money. Alipay is just like a front end for PayPal. So you could just send me money in PayPal. Or I'm pretty sure it's still just a front end for PayPal. Thoughts on Friedrich Hayek. Alright, here's my hot take. I've given this one before, but I'll give it to you again. Friedrich Hayek is more based in red pilled than Murray Rothbard. Maybe I'll go into why later, but thoughts on Sam Harris. He's basically a Redditor. That's what I think about him. Okay, no, okay. I shouldn't lord over him. I know I started this stream saying don't to be nice to people. So, no opinions on Sam Harris. But I'm very suspicious of him. Okay. Can you make more videos on self-hosting? I might, yeah, I think I will. There's one I definitely want to make, because one thing I left out like how I actually configure my website. Like I told you, okay, go log into the server and you can edit your website. But I don't actually do that. I actually have an offline repository of my website, and then I rsync it up. So I sort of want to do a video on rsync, because rsync is basically this command line protocol to, you know, synchronize files with servers and stuff like that. Or really just, it's basically like copy, it's like CP, except for it works across computers. So it's a nice thing to, it's just a nice thing. When's the next podcast episode? That is the question. I feel so bad because the podcast is, it's the only good part of my channel. I don't want to say it's the only good part of my channel, but I have always liked it. And I have so many great ideas for what I'm going to do, but it's just hard getting motivated to do it. And I'm the kind of person, I have to have inspiration to do it. I've actually, I have actually recorded half of an episode months ago, and I didn't put it up because I had audio trouble, and I was also like, oh, there are a couple things I want to add in. The episode was actually going to be about the life and times of George Soros, which sounds like I was going to do a review of, and I probably still will do this. It's bad luck to tell you what episodes I'm going to do, but I'll tell you. I was going to do a review of Popper's Open Society and Its Enemies, which was a big inspiration on George Soros. And then I was going to do some of his books, basically his worldview. Where does it come from? How is it a response to Popper's view? Of course, you might know that George Soros' organization is called the Open Society Foundation, right? It's based on Open Society and Its Enemies by Karl Popper. So fundamental to Soros's way of looking at things is sort of the Popperian idea of an open society. But it's just interesting that Popper's open society is sort of like kind of liberalism, or libertarianism. We'll use that word, libertarianism with democracy. That's basically what Popper. Well, Popper was a big cuck on democracy. I'll tell you that. He has a bunch of boomer takes about that. But George Soros sort of took it. Like his views are sort of a response to that. Really, George Soros, ironically enough, even though he has the Open Society Foundation, there are many senses in which he rejects the idea of an open society, or at least, I don't know. It's confusing. Well, not confusing, but I'll save it for the podcast episode. But Alexi, €2. You're my YouTube father figure. Love all, Alex. Okay, thank you. Okay. $5 from Nick. Thoughts on Gödel, Escher, Bach? Gödel, Escher, Bach, of course, have the book. For those who don't know, Gödel, Escher, Bach is a book that is very hard to explain. If you had to ask me, what is GEB? People call it GEB. What is Gödel, Escher, Bach about? It's hard to explain. It's supposed to be about an explanation of where consciousness comes from. But it's really just Douglas Hofstadter just saying random stuff and being quirky and making silly jokes for a full book. And I guess it's an entertaining read. I don't really feel like it explains. Well, it's okay. It talks about consciousness, about some things that we can know about it. But I guess it's one of those books that maybe you want to read because it's an interesting book to read. I cannot tell you I got that much insight from it. It's sort of like reading the funny papers. I mean, it's like in the newspaper. You know how they might have or like maybe not news. You don't know. Zoomers don't know what a newspaper is, but in like periodicals online, you might have like here's a fun facts section. Sort of like like reading a giant fun facts section. Okay, it's more rigorous than that. It's a lot more rigorous than that. It talks about a lot of important concepts in, I guess mostly recursion. A lot of people, I think a lot of computer science people actually read that during their degrees. That has become a meme. Yeah, it's not really a computer science book, although you will learn computer science and stuff. Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's just one of those things. Okay. F. Yuri, £5. What books would you recommend to red pill me? I'm a tranner and an ML. I don't know what an ML is. I probably don't want to know, but whatever. But I find your ideas interesting despite not always agreeing. See, the thing about books, people always ask me, what books do I need to read to get red pilled? I mean, it depends on the individual, frankly. And a lot of, like, even a lot of books that originally red pilled me, I look back at them now and I'm like, oh, they were so basic. So, like, one example, the example I usually use, and this might be a good normie friendly book. Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. Okay, Steven Pinker. Now I think he is so basic. He's so like cringe and blue pilled. But at the time when I read that book is basically like, and a lot of like liberals sort of know this now. Oh, that's the book that like gets people red pilled because it's Blank Slate is basically like against the idea that people are born without natural predispositions. And he talks about a lot of the biological differences between people and how they affect your psychology and how they differ by gender and just different things. Okay. And so that for I've met many people in my life for whom that was like the first red pill book they read. Even though, like, again, I don't even like Stephen. I think basically everything else he's written is bad. Blank Slate is actually pretty good because of some of the stuff it touches on. In fact, it was one of the few books when I read it, I was like, you know what? It was a big book. Well, it's not that big. Well, I guess it's big. But it was a pretty big book, and I was like, you know what? I could read more of this. You know, I wish there were more. He even, like, drops hints. Oh, I could have written chapters on this and that, but I didn't do it. But... So that's one of those books. And the fact of the matter is, like, for different people, you'll need different things. And a lot of it is life experience, too. I think, when you're a younger kid, when you're a teenager, when you're in your early 20s, when you're at college or something like that, there's a sense in which you're more... What the problem was, it was not actually the bandwidth, it was actually my CPU. So yeah, it was weird. So like the internet was going through fine, but like I was recording and encoding the video at the same time, and it got to the point where I was like using all my cores, and then it like it couldn't it was like recording it and then sending the recording up at the same time. So anyway, let's see how many did we lose. Says only 631 watching now, so we lost like 400. Let's see who comes back. But let me actually, I saw some donations come up. So I don't know when this chat left off, because I'm pretty sure it was like buffering for a while, and I never saw it, because like my CPU was overloaded. Okay, it looks like a lot of, well, at least a couple questions come through. Thoughts on Douglas Murray and Chris Hedges? I don't know who Douglas Murray is. If he's anything like Chris Hedges, I'm gonna say cringe. If Chris Hedges is the guy I think you're talking about, he's some kind of journalist, but he's cringe. So Douglas Murray, I'm gonna guess, is cringe too. That was $2 from Michael Smith. $2 from Richard saying pay respects to 0 FPF stream F. Again, it's not the internet, it was my CPU. I need to... See, that has never happened. I've always streamed on this computer, and I've streamed for like 3 hours or so in one sitting. So, I don't think we've been going for 3 hours. We might have been going for like 2 hours. Okay, but, yeah, I think it's... I probably just need to redo thermal paste or something. Does that speed your processor up? I'm gonna guess. I actually had to fix a normie's computer the other day, or today. I shouldn't say normie, they're my friend, but you know, I had this friend whose desktop Wi-Fi adapter broke, and I had to. Thankfully, I've harvested Wi-Fi adapters from like every single computer I have. Like whenever I have a computer, whenever someone, you know, boomers will have me. Oh, this computer broke? Could you like get the stuff off the hard drive? So I'll do that for them. And then they'll be like, oh, you can keep the computer, which I usually throw away, but I harvest the hard drive and the memory sticks and the Wi-Fi adapters. Thankfully, I had saved one of these and I could use it in her desktop. I don't know. I've never heard of a Wi-Fi adapter just collapsing, or breaking, but that's what happened to hers. So I'm gonna pull back up the chat. That would be nice if I could actually see if, you know, if people are chatting, if this stuff is actually going on. And let me check my processor usage. Okay, it's big, but I don't think it's quite as bad as before, because I was like on all 4 cores. Let's see. So a couple donations. I think it's just Jan sends in $25. Sorry, I will stop. Have a good one, Boomer. So thanks for $25. Oh yeah, this is me telling them to give bigger donations than a million little small ones. So thanks for the $25 and the previous donations. Justin Irving sends in $10. I don't think there's a comment on that, but thank you. Let's see. So yeah, we're going up a little bit, but we've lost, well, not a majority, but some of our viewers. But you know, so this is gonna be the portion for the more elite viewers. So I guess this is also the first stream I've done since I've had 100,000 subscribers. I guess that is the case too. Didn't really think about it, but that is. Who cares? I mean, who cares? I want to see if people. I did that video a couple days ago, or I put out that video a couple days ago when I was talking about. I think I talked about hitting 100,000 subscribers, and then I was complaining about crummy Indian videos on YouTube, and so a bunch of so I got so many butthurt Indian comments. It was just like, oh, dude, it's a joke. I don't want to call people spurgs, but you know, I don't know. Anyway, Indian videos on YouTube are totally devoid of content. I've yet to see one, like a good Indian tech tutorial. It's just it's not even about the microphones. It's not even about the accents. It's about the content. Frankly, that's just how it is. Anyway. You should look, this is $5 from Daniel, you should look into permaculture as a podcast idea. I have a playlist of random videos I made a while back on my channel. Link on here is blocked. Yeah, I might look at that. There is one kind of farming, sort of, it's more like traditional folklore episode that I want to do of my podcast. Which is sort of, well, I don't want to tell you what it's about, but anyway. So, wow sends in 5 good boy points. He says, lots of love from Albion. Hope you have, I hope you have your track and trace app installed. Don't want to give boomers woo flu. The Unaboomer is 100%, or Unabomber is 100% correct. Yeah, I mean, the whole, these people who are still going with this, oh, it's a deadly virus thing, that's like big cringe. I'm sorry Twitter liberals. Let's see, guy who games a lot sends in $5. He says, do you think the government should use the coercion of force to enforce, you know, this guy's a libertarian. Do you think the government should use coercion of force to enforce morality, e.g. drugs, prostitution? Are you saying that drugs and prostitution are morality? I'm not quite sure. No, of course that stuff should be illegal. And I know that like libertarians will make all these like hackneyed explanations of how either if they're bad, people won't do them, or if people do them, they're somehow magically good. But yeah, no, that's stupid. I don't have any libertarian pretensions, so I'm not going to pretend that like pornography, like, oh wow, pornography has contributed to the world, because it hasn't. It's literally been nothing but harm. And I don't think there's anyone in the universe who even pretends. I'm sure there are people who pretend otherwise, But I think most people, even those who watch pornography, know, oh, this is a terrible habit that's destroying me. And and it's not even, oh, the government, coercion of force. Those are masturbatory terms. It's not even like you have to be that strong. You just have to make it illegal to have a website like that. Just have to shut them down. If they shut down pornography in the same way that they shut down political speech, we wouldn't have to worry about it. It'd be over. There'd be no pornography, you know. Pornography is like utter cringe. And it's also, you know, it's used to control you because it's free. That's the other thing, you know. Oh, they make all Hollywood will make all these rationalizations as for why they have to have this, you know, American law has to have this obscene copyright law that like regulates everything about how you can look at and view a movie, and how we need money for to buy all this equipment and all this stuff, and there wouldn't be art if we didn't have this massive subsidy of blah blah blah. But then, like, why doesn't that apply to porn? Because they want you cooming, basically. I mean, they want you watching movies, but, you know, cooming is, you know, a much more personal thing that you'd be ashamed to spend money on. But how does prawn control? In the same way that I mentioned. Like, it is one of those things that is perfectly designed to manipulate human psychology. So people who watch it, what they do is they spend more and more of their time engrossed in it. Like, they get not just the like propagandistic messages in it. There is that kind of stuff in porn, but it is just another thing that literally drains the testosterone out of you, and you sit watching something that ultimately takes away your freedom. You lose motivation. You lose like the ability to interact with people gradually. It is one of those things that is just like, you get nothing out of it. Like, it's, I don't know. But I think even most people who use it live as if they're like, okay, I know this is bad, but I'm addicted. I mentioned that earlier in the stream. But the whole idea of, oh no, I just can't control myself. That's just such a cope. Yes, you can control yourself. It's your responsibility to control yourself. You can do it. Anyone can. Like, you know. Like, porn is one of those things. I've watched porn years ago, and I literally just quit it cold turkey. It was that easy. Like, it's not hard. You know. William sends in $25. Thank you, William. I don't think there's a note on this, though, but thank you nonetheless. Are you asexual? That's almost the fact that you ask that is retarded. If you watch porn, you're asexual. Okay, that's what asexuality should mean. Okay, totally. There's no such thing as there's no one who has no sexual feelings. That's stupid. Does not exist. Well, really, people claim that because mostly men claim to be it. Well, okay, men and women will claim to be asexual. Men in the case where it's like, oh, I'm a little autistic and I'm awkward around girls and I don't want to admit that I can't get them and I don't have them. That's what it is for men. Or girls will be like, oh, I just want guys to go away because I like had bad experiences. But the whole idea that like there are people out there who don't have sexual impulses is just like such a, yeah, it's cringe. German Shepherd, $5. Was Germany the last nation to save us from globalization? Well, they're certainly screwing us over now. I mean, so far, no one has saved us from anything. So, freaking coomers. $5 from Justin. No comment on this. Maybe I'm reading like Streamlabs donations that haven't gone through. Thoughts on Hans Hermann Hoppe? I haven't actually read. Well, I guess I've read Democracy: The God That Failed, which is, I guess, an alright. I mean, is a very Austrian book. I'll just say that it probably would not make any sense to anyone who doesn't know anything about Austrian economics because it's like written in that style. So it's pretty hard to. I don't know. The thing is, there is no one book. Someone needs to write the book about why democracy is bad. And someone needs to explain it in dumb people terms. But all the books written about it are just like really abstruse, or, you know, there's stuff like that that's like sort of autistic, libertarian stuff. But can you be happy with a simple and red-pilled life when modernity has set the standard to constant consumerism and blue-pilled metropolitan droning? Yeah, you just don't have to live there, dude. Like, you can live a traditional life. You can go back in time. It's called moving into the country. Okay? It's not to say that, you know, there aren't things you have to think about, but, you know, like this whole accelerationist, like, the world is over thing, so we might as well just make it worse. It's just a cope. It's just a cope for people who feel like they can't affect their life. And the reason they feel like that is because they live in cities and they're plugged into the system. And once you get out of that, you realize, I can move into the country and I can be in a place where, like, no one's going to come and get me, or it's not worth it, or I can live independently, or even if Biden gets elected, like, it's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, thoughts on the intellectual dark web? Yeah, it's utter cringe. It's just like the Reddit version of being red-pilled, but it's like for retarded Redditors. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be lording over Redditors. I gotta stop doing that. Gotta stop that, because that's a Reddit thing to do. You can't. That's where they get you. You know, you always want to talk about how superior you are to Redditors, but then again, that's what Redditors do. They talk about how superior they are to other people. So I don't know. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But no, intellectual dark web. All of those people, they're just like boomers. That's like boomer tier stuff. That's like Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. They're like cringe. They have no hot takes, and they will actively undermine and fight against anyone who does have hot takes, who does have anything interesting to say. So no, I'm not a big fan of them. I'm sure that they are red-pilling to someone. As I said earlier in the stream, you know, I once thought that Steven Pinker was red-pilling, but, you know, it's nothing. They are nothing I'm interested in, because I don't know. I'm not interested. Geese Lewis, or Geese Lewis, I don't know. Geese Louise, maybe that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. Any thoughts on Varg's criticisms towards Christianity? Yeah, it's cringe, because Varg's paganism, I've thought about writing this up just because it comes up. Varg's internet paganism is just like made up. Okay, I like Varg, I like his lifestyle, I like most of the things he says, but like Varg like has this weird modernist view of like paganism as being like some kind of shorthand for hidden secret scientific knowledge, all of which is about the placenta. And he basically has made up his own religion based on paganistic themes that has nothing to do with like pagan practice. Okay, where like the god, yeah, I mean you look at the stuff he says about them, and it's like, you know, the gods are metaphors for like, or like there are metaphors in pagan culture for like hormones and stuff like that, and the gods are like representations of that and kind of stuff. It's just this like scientific, like Anglo-American, honestly, rationalization over paganism, which like no one believed. And so his whole like his criticism of Christianity amounts to, oh, it's Jewish, which is or cringe, or like, oh, it's cucked, which is like, I understand, but like I think I did in my last podcast I sort of talked about this in just in passing, maybe at the beginning I mentioned this, but this whole idea of like Christianity as being like A, Jewish, and B, alien to the intellectual cultures of Europe is sort of weird and ahistorical, because yes, Christianity has, of course, the Old Testament, and there's the idea that the Messiah comes from, you know, the Jewish lineage, but people earlier in time, I may have said this in the podcast, you know, like people in the Renaissance, they looked at there as being, okay, so there's the Old Covenant for the Jews, but there's also the Old Covenant for the Greeks. There's a specific philosophical knowledge that God has endowed the Greeks with that prepared them for the ideas like the Trinity and to understand, theological concepts. And in fact, all of these things are sort of built into the Greek worldview. So you look at Christian theology, and it's Greek, okay? And there's some Roman stuff as well, but again, in the Renaissance or earlier, people had the idea that in the same way, God had a covenant with the Romans, right? The Romans had a destiny to rule during that period where Jesus, the Messiah, would come, and all this stuff, would spread over the Roman Empire and stuff like that. So there's this idea, Varg, I think these other kind of Varg anti-Christians, they have this idea that like, oh, Christianity is something totally alien because Jesus was a Jew, and then the silliest thing is like Christianity is a type of Judaism, when in reality, if you look at, even if you look at like historical analysis, like the historical critical like atheists who write stuff about the Bible and how it was written, like really the reason the New Testament was written is to explain to people how Christianity exists, like how Jesus was a Jewish person who was the Messiah, despite the fact that basically no Christians were Jews. Like the Acts of the Apostles, for example, is basically the story of Jews rejecting Christianity and why the Gentiles became worthy of it rather than the Jews. That like modern Jews define themselves as being opposed to Christianity, and like and if you want evidence of this, compare Varg's paganism and Christianity and see which Jews hate. Jews don't care about Varg's paganism. It's a LARP. Okay, it's not a real thing. Whereas Christianity represents it quite literally is a subversion of Judaism, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, that's how they think of it. Anyway. Moldbug did a pretty good, this is $5 from Super Duper. Moldbug did a pretty good job of explaining why democracy is bad. Well, I said for normies. Moldbug is not for normies. Moldbug is for galaxy brains, okay? If you want to know if you're a brainlet or not, read Moldbug, okay? If it makes sense to you, oh, congratulations, but okay, I don't want to say that. Some of Moldbug stuff is just hard to get into, okay? But yeah, Moldbug is not accessible to people who are not super, I don't know. He has that kind of Nietzschean style of writing where he, I guess, like beats around the bush. He's very poetic in the way he describes certain things that, in many ways, is like more communicative. But if you're a literalistic kind of Redditor thinker, that's something very difficult for you to understand. So Moldbug, I think he said very true things about democracy and very accurate critiques. But anyway. Okay, how's the CPU doing? People are saying that it's loading slowly, but all right, I'm gonna check the donations. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't look like it's buffering or anything. But yeah, a couple people in the chat are complaining about it being a little low. Let's see. $5 from some Korean name. I forget how to read Korean. I used to know how to read Korean, but I don't care. I'm going to guess that the first character is Kim, but anyway, thoughts on traditional school, Evola and Guénon, and their criticism of Christianity. I would say some of it is similar to what I just said about Varg. Obviously, Varg's ideas are a little more out there, but I've only read a little bit of Evola, and I don't really feel it's that. Wait. I don't really feel he was that critical of Christianity. Maybe, I don't know, are you missed that? For some reason, I want to feel like Evola was pretty, I don't know. I don't really feel like he criticized Christianity that much. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. But anyway. Let's see. Okay. Alright, let me check my email. Gotta pull it up every 2 seconds to check for donations. No emails. Alright, let me see if there's anything. might bring it to a close. So I may be doing streams possibly, well, I don't think tomorrow night, but maybe Tuesday night. We will see. I might be recording some videos. I might be doing some stuff. So September I did not put up a single video. I'm pretty sure. And I just wanted to see how low my YouTube revenue could get. Like, what's my baseline if I get like no views in a month. I just wanted to see where that goes. And it's a little higher than it was. I remember when I first monetized my channel. First off, I always felt guilty about monetizing. I think you can look at old videos of mine where I'm like, I'm never gonna monetize. I'm not gonna do that. But eventually, I was like, okay, maybe I should make some money off this. I remember back when I had the forum, the only reason I monetized is I was like, okay, I'll just ask the people, what do they want? And I put a poll up that was like, should I monetize or not? And the vast majority of people said yes, so I was like, whatever, I'll do it. But I remember when I first got monetized, I was looking at my income and I was like, whoa, dude, if I like made a video every day, I can make like $300 a month. That's where I was. Like, now, if I made $300 a month just off YouTube, I would want to KMS myself. That would be like, if I put up no videos for like 5 months, maybe I'll get down to that level. But I mean, it's not that I don't get rich on YouTube. I will tell you that. I will absolutely tell you that. I guess I get money from other places as well now. But yeah, let's just say $300. That is not my lower end. I also remember the first month, not just on YouTube, but I remember the first month that I ever made more than $1,000 online. I want to say that was January of 2019. I was like, dude, I just made $1,000 online. I could maybe do that. I could maybe support myself in a cabin living on, $1,000 a month. But yeah, now I make comfortably more than that. I don't make that much more on YouTube. I mean, if I put up a lot of videos, I'll make money. But like I guess I get, let's see, I get some Brave Bucks. People do give me Brave Bucks, but that changes a lot. And I get there are other freaking ways I get money, but they're all, I'm forgetting them all right now. I mean, people donate and stuff. When I put up a bunch of videos, sometimes people will be very generous with donations. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen someone give like $100 or something. We've had a couple 25s, but I want to say probably the biggest donation I've ever gotten is, see, I'm not like a girl on Twitch with big boobs, so the biggest one I've ever gotten is $1,000. So if I were a girl on Twitch with big boobs, I would have 40,000, but. Okay. Why do people ask the exact same questions for the entire... I don't know, maybe they just want me to see them. Let's see. Thoughts on blank, thoughts on blank, thoughts on blank, yep. Alright. I might want to draw it to a close. I think I'm getting a little tired. So if you have any last minute comments, I might close it up soon. What time is it? Oh man, it's almost 10? Oh, it's totally not boomer-like to stay up this late. I gotta do my evening prayers and then go to bed. Tomorrow, I don't quite know what I'm going to do, because I have somewhere I got to be by around 5 p.m., but before then, I guess I have to drive a couple hours, but I don't really know what to do in the meantime, so we'll see. We will see. By the way, if you live in the Southeast, and you have friends that watch the channel, I might consider having like meetups at some point. Now I'm not just gonna meet random people, but if you have a Luke Smith club somewhere around, if you want to organize one of those, you can contact me. And next time I do a little tour like I'm doing now, and this might last only a couple more days, but next time I do one of these tours, I might come and see people in IRL. Okie dokie. When's the stream with your cousin, Luke? I don't know. I'll talk to her. She is getting our house remodeled, so I don't know if we could do it there. Maybe we could. That would be funny, actually. Maybe we'll do that. We'll have to sit on the floor. But, yeah, I'll talk to her about that. They were going to do something for my birthday later, maybe next week or something. My birthday passed. It was actually earlier or I guess last week. Yeah, because today's Sunday. Or it depends on how you do. I guess in Europe, right, it still is this week, but in America it was last week. But, let's see. What was I going to say? Yeah. So I'll do some kind of stream. I will do, again, another stream probably in 2 days or so, and it'll be another one probably in a hotel. It might be at a relative's house. We'll see. Okay. So I'm going to do a last check of donations, and then that'll be it. Okay, are people literally just posting the same questions over and over and over in the chat? Like copying, pasting them? I wish... Is there a way to, like, stop that? Because it honestly annoys me to no end. I think also, what was I going to say? Like, at this point, like, right now I'm looking at the normal chat, but usually I just don't have any time to look at normal chat, so you just have to use super chat, to be honest. But I'll try and... I guess I've read some normal chats. Let's... Okay, alright. Okay, well, that looks like it. No other super chats recently, so I will close it on out. And I'll see you guys next time. Remember, don't be like a Redditor. Don't lord over people who are your inferiors, and keep your cards close. Don't tell any. Just don't talk about it. Don't ever try and be arrogant. You know. Don't try and be arrogant. All right, that's about it. See you guys next time.